Story of Shantanu. Mahabharata begins with the story of Shantanu, the Kuru king. He had a large kingdom. Its capital was Hastinapur. The kingdom of Shantanu was a symbol of prosperity. One day, while hunting in a forest, Shantanu came across a lovely maiden coming out of the river Ganga. Shantanu proposed to marry her. In reply, the woman said, "I am Ganga, the goddess of this beautiful river. I have come down to the earth for accomplishing a mission. So, when I am married, I must be absolutely free to do what I like. At no stage will you ever question my actions. I shall stay as your wife as long as you abide by this rule, or else I will go back to my abode." Shantanu was surprised to hear such condition, but he thought for a while and accepted it. Everything is going fine until the Queen Ganga gets pregnant. Each time a baby is born, Ganga takes it to the river and drowns it. Shantanu is shocked beyond words, but is helpless. When the queen bears the eighth child, Shantanu couldn't control himself. He shouted, "Stop it! How can you drown your own children like this?" The queen replies calmly, "O king, I will spare this child. But you have broken your promise. So now the time has come for us to part." This eighth son of Shantanu is named Devabrata, who grows into a great warrior endowed with rare mental and spiritual qualities. Again one day, while hunting, Shantanu's eyes fell on a charming young girl named Satyavati, the daughter of a fisherman. The king wants to marry her, but the father of Satyavati puts one condition, that it is not Devabrata, but the son born to Satyavati is to be the next king of the kingdom. Shantanu cannot agree to this, but hearing this, Devabrata says, "In the presence of God and my ancestors, I take a pledge that I will never marry and I will never seek the throne." For this vow, Devabrata is later known as Bhishma, meaning one of firm vow. Kingdom of Hastinapur. Satyavati bears two sons, Chitrangada and Vichitravirja. Chitrangada dies in a battle, so Hastinapur came under the rule of Vichitravirja. He is married to two princesses, Ambika and Ambalika. However, he could not become a father and he is also killed in a battle. Later, with the yogic power of a great sage, the queens gave birth to two sons, Dhritarashtra and Pandu. As Dhritarashtra was blind by birth, Pandu succeeds the throne. However, they also had a brother named Vidura, but he was born of the womb of a maid servant who was secretly sent by Ambika to that sage. Vidura is later proved to be a highly virtuous man. He is chosen the prime minister of Hastinapur. Story of Pandavas. Pandu marries Kunti and Madri. Kunti, however, had a child named Karna before her marriage. Kunti was endowed with a power to invoke a god from heaven and have a son in her womb from that god, with her virginity kept intact as well. Once she got pregnant with the child of the sun god. This child is named Karna, who had a special quality. He was born with a protective armor that is Kavacha, on his chest, and in his ears the earrings or kundalas. Kunti, the unwed mother, was apprehensive to keep Karna as her son, so she abandoned her, and Karna was brought up by the low-born charioteers Adhiratha and Radha. As Karna was brought up by Radha, he was also called Radheya. On the other side, Dhritarashtra was married to Gandhari. Gandhari was a noble lady. She blindfolded herself throughout her life as a mark of respect to her blind husband Dhritarashtra. Even after being married to 2 wives, however, Pandu could not become a father because he was cursed by a deer. While hunting, he killed a deer which was making love with its mate. Before dying, the deer says, "You too will die the moment you try to unite with your wife." Thus, an irrevocable celibacy was imposed upon Pandu. At this moment, Kunti again used her power to invoke gods, Dharmaraj, Vayudeva, and Indra. As a result, Kunti bore 3 sons, Yudhishthira, Bhima, and Arjuna. Kunti also taught Madri the art of invoking gods, and thus Madri bore a brilliant twins, Nakula and Sahadeva. Thus King Pandu became father of 5 illustrious sons who came to be known as Pandavas, that is, sons of Pandu. With the death of Pandu, Dhritarashtra became the king of Hastinapur. Dhritarashtra and Gandhari had 100 sons, who were known as Kauravas. The eldest among them was Duryodhana, and the second eldest was Dushasana. Dushala was their only sister. Rivalry of the brothers. Gradually, intense rivalry developed between the Pandava and Kaurava brothers. The Kauravas felt extreme jealousy against the Pandavas because in every field, whether in heroism, war skill, physical strength, righteousness, or in wisdom, the Pandavas always proved to be much worthier than the Kauravas. Duryodhana particularly nursed severe jealousy against the Pandavas because he considered himself to be the rightful heir to the throne of Hastinapur. The story of Arjuna. Meanwhile, the Pandavas and Kauravas were all sent to Dronacharya, the great teacher, to learn the art of warfare. Among all the Pandavas and Kauravas, Arjuna was the only one who had immense liking for archery. He practiced this art with great devotion and perseverance. Drona was very pleased with Arjuna and showed parental love and favor to him. This made Duryodhana and Dushasana more jealous of Arjuna. One day, Drona decided to test all his disciples so that he could rank the best archer among them. Accordingly, a wooden bird was put on a branch of a distant tree. It was partly hidden by the foliage. Drona called all his disciples and asked them to hit the arrow exactly in its eye. But before hitting the arrow, they should tell him what do they see when they have taken their aim. He started with Yudhishthira, who answered, "I see you and the tree and its branches." Drona shook his head and shouted, "Stop! Next." The same question was put to the other disciples, but Drona received similar answers. Drona told each of them to step aside, as it was obvious that with such poor concentration they were sure to miss their target. In the end, it was the turn of Arjuna. When Drona asked him the same question, Arjuna replied, "I can see only the eye of the bird." "Shoot," Drona ordered, and the arrow hit the eye of the bird perfectly. Drona hugged Arjuna with joy and declared him the best archer among all his. The story of Karna. On the other side, Karna also grew into a great archer, as skillful as Arjuna. But being a low-born Sutaputra, he was never given the credit due to him. Consequently, he also developed intense jealousy against Arjuna. One day, in a grand royal competition, he challenged Arjuna. But Karna was prevented from competing with Arjuna on the excuse that he did not belong to the royal family. Jealous Duryodhana saw a great opportunity to humiliate Arjuna. He immediately declared Karna as his best friend and made him the king of Anga province. At that moment the sun sets and the assembly dispersed. So Karna missed the chance to challenge Arjuna. Palace of Lac. One day a meeting was called to designate the next king of Hastinapur in the palace of Dhritarashtra. And Yudhishthira was appointed as the crown prince of Hastinapur. This made Duryodhana terribly upset. So Duryodhana and his villainous, cunning maternal uncle Shakuni conspired to put an end to the Pandavas. It was decided that the Pandavas would be sent to a grand exhibition in a nearby town and be housed in a palace secretly made of lac, that is, a highly inflammable material. However, the Pandavas were alerted by Vidura about the death trap, and the Pandavas befooled the Kauravas by secretly escaping the palace by digging an underground tunnel. Full of apprehension, the Pandavas lived incognito in a forest for some time. In the forest, a she-demon, Hirimba, fell in love with Bhima, and they got married, and they were blessed with a very powerful son. The story of Draupadi. One fine day, the Pandavas came to know about the Swayamvara of Draupadi, the princess of Panchal. Draupadi was the daughter of King Drupada. She was very brave, beautiful, and equally intelligent. Draupadi put a condition for her marriage, that she would wed the prince who would pierce the eye of the rotating wooden fish by looking at its reflection. Many princes from all over the country had come to try their luck to get Draupadi as their bride, which included Duryodhana and Karna too. The Pandavas were also there in the guise of Brahmins. But here again Karna was restricted from competing by the intervention of Krishna. Thus insulted, Duryodhana and Karna left the court. Finally, Arjuna succeeded in hitting the aim perfectly and married Draupadi. Krishna was very pleased, as he had special affection for Arjuna and Draupadi. However, Draupadi was accepted as a common wife of the Pandavas. Thus, Draupadi married all the 5 brothers. In the meantime, it became clear that the Pandavas are still alive. Dhritarashtra received them with love and affection, and they were given half of the kingdom to settle down. All the 5 brothers worked very hard to bring prosperity to their land. Over a period of time, the Pandavas were recognized and accepted as powerful, noble, and better rulers than the Kauravas. Sri Krishna visited them off and on, and Arjuna became his best friend and disciple. The story of Indraprastha. To commemorate their successful rehabilitation, Yudhishthira performed a great Rajaswa Yogya. Thousands of people were invited to the ceremony. The guests were overwhelmed with the hospitality and grandeur of Indraprastha, the new Pandava capital, with its mansions, gardens, and broad roads. Duryodhana attended the ceremony with his maternal uncle Shokuni. The ever envious Duryodhana's intention was to examine the glorious prosperity of the Pandavas. In the palace of the Pandavas, Duryodhana and Shokuni were treated as special guests and were given a separate palace and looked after with extreme love and affection. However, seeing the prosperity of the Pandavas, Duryodhana began to burn with fire of envy. He was amazed to see the palace of Pandavas, especially the assembly hall built by Mayasura. The court was excellent in its puzzling artistic workmanship. Duryodhana became specially envious and lustful upon seeing the beauty of Draupadi because he had cherished a special attraction for her. So he decided to stay there for a few more days. One day, Duryodhana was roaming around in the palace. Going down the steps of the door, he was about to enter the yard of the assembly hall. The crystal-like dazzling floor appeared as a pool of water to him. He stepped, but then found that it was actually a floor. Then going a few steps further on the floor, he mistook a pool of water for the floor and fell on it. Draupadi was standing at the window of that palace. She saw the scene and laughed. Duryodhana felt highly insulted. Burning with jealousy and hatred, Duryodhana decided to bring the downfall of the Pandavas at any cost. The game of dice. Duryodhana knew that it was futile to attack or engage the Pandavas in war, as that was sure to destroy Hastinapur. It was also sensed that Sri Krishna, Bhishma, and Dronacharya would oppose any such move. At last Shokuni, the great schemer, found the weak point he was looking for. He knew that Yudhishthira, as a king, would not refuse to play a game of dice if a royal invitation was sent to him. Shokuni was adept in the game of dice that followed only his command, so he could manipulate the game where the victory of the Kauravas was assured. Duryodhana placed his evil plan before Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra liked the plan and asked Vidura to go to Indraprastha to invite Yudhishthira for a game of dice. Accordingly, 5 brothers and their wife Draupadi reached Hastinapur. On the day of the game, Duryodhana, Shokuni, and Dushasana sat at one side, while Yudhishthira and his 4 brothers sat on the other side. Initially, a small amount of money and jewelry was put at stake. The dice was thrown and Shokuni won the throw. Thus the game progressed on and on. Each time Shokuni came up with the requisite number with his magical dice, and Yudhishthira was bound to lose the game. And as a losing gamester, Yudhishthira lost all sense of reason and discrimination. He put Indraprastha at stake and, as expected, lost that turn too. King Yudhishthira was stripped of his kingdom and he became an ordinary man. Shokuni mocked Yudhishthira, that stimulated Yudhishthira to continue the game further. Being deprived of all his material possession, Yudhishthira now put his brother Bhima at stake. Again Yudhishthira lost the count and Bhima became the slave of Duryodhana. In the like manner, Yudhishthira lost Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadeva, and at last himself to the evil designs of Shokuni. The Pandavas were bereft of all rights, even those of ordinary citizens. The whole court was stunned to see this unusual betting from so righteous a person as Yudhishthira. At last, desperate Yudhishthira put Draupadi at stake. Everyone in the court protested, but in vain. As fate was to be, Yudhishthira lost Draupadi. The ordeal of Draupadi. Duryodhana immediately announced Draupadi as his maid and asked his brother Dushasana to go and bring Draupadi to the court. Dushasana brought the helpless Draupadi to the court, dragging her by her hair. Her protest that Yudhishthira had no right to put her at stake was not heard amidst the agonizing cries of the women in the court. Bhisha, Drona, and Vidura watched helplessly, their heads down with shame. King Dhritarashtra was silent. Cries of shame, shame mingled with the terrifying laughter of Duryodhana, Shakuni, and Dushasana. In order to provoke the Pandavas further, Duryodhana bears and pats his thigh, looking into Draupadi's eyes, implying that she should sit on his thigh. The enraged Bhima vows in front of the entire assembly that he would break Duryodhana's thighs or else accept being Duryodhana's slave for 7 lifetimes. At this time, Vikarna, a brother of Duryodhana, gave the opinion that Draupadi was not won rightfully, as Yudhishthira lost himself fast before taking her. Besides, no one has right to put a woman on bed according to Shastras, not a husband, father, or even the gods. Hearing this, Karna gets angry and calls Draupadi unchaste for being the wedded wife of 5 men. So he ordered Dushasana to disrobe Draupadi. Bhisha objected, Dhritarashtra trembled, but lust, pride, and blind power of victory was not prepared to listen to or see sense. Helpless Draupadi had only one hope, one last hope to save her grace. Sri Krishna would and could alone save her from disgrace. She started chanting his name and praying for her grace. Dushasana attempted to disrobe Draupadi, but she was miraculously protected by Krishna by providing endless years of clothes to cover her body. The evil Dushasana went on and on, his hands aching with pain, but there was no end to the clothes on Draupadi's body. At last, Dushasana collapsed, completely exhausted. At this point, furious Bhima vows to drink blood from Dushasana's chest. Queen Gandhari enters the scene and counsels Dhritarashtra to undo her son's misdeeds. Dhritarashtra, feeling sorry for what he had done, summoned Draupadi and said, "Ask me for any favor, and I shall grant it." Draupadi said, "Free Yudhishthira and all his brothers from your slavery." Dhritarashtra granted the favor and said to Yudhishthira, "You may take back all that you have lost, your wealth, status." The second game of dice. Shakuni and Duryodhana were, however, silently grumbling for the lost opportunity of putting an end to the prosperity of the Pandavas. Duryodhana once again approached his father and said, "You have lost the whole thing, father. The Pandavas are sure to retaliate in a terrible way. You know that it is extremely tough to deal with the mighty Pandavas. I shall again deceive them to achieve my object of snatching their kingdom for myself." "Do you have any plans to deal with the Pandavas?" Dhritarashtra asked Duryodhana. Duryodhana replied, "Again I have a plan. Let us invite Yudhishthira to a game of dice again, but this time the stakes are going to be different. At the end of this game, the loser shall go into exile. He must live in the forest for 12 years and then for 1 full year in concealment. In that particular year of hiding, if he is recognized, another term of a 12-year banishment shall be imposed upon him." Dhritarashtra agreed to the plan and sent messengers to invite the Pandavas. In those days, it was a custom among the Kshatriyas not to decline an invitation for the game of dice. So when Yudhishthira was invited again for the dice game at Hastinapur, he accepted the invitation. The next day, Yudhishthira and all his brothers reached Hastinapur. Duryodhana explained all the rules of the game to him. Everybody tried their best to dissuade Yudhishthira from repeating the same mistake, but he was firm in his mind. He readily accepted the challenge. The game started, and Shakuni, as always, used the special dice. The Pandavas were defeated again. Thus, after being defeated in gambling and insulted by the Kauravas, the Pandavas started for their exile in the forest. Life in exile. Having left their kingdom, the Pandavas started living in different forests. Days passed by. Many sages and saints reached the dwelling place of the Pandavas for talks and discussions on various aspects of yoga and the scriptures, the Vedas, and the Upanishads. It was obvious to the five brothers that Duryodhana would never return them their kingdom. So war would be the last solution, and they must be prepared for such an eventuality. Therefore, to increase their power and capabilities, the Pandavas decided to send Arjuna to the kingdom of Himalayas to bring special weapons from the gods and learn few more skills from them. Reaching the Mount Kailash, Arjuna pleased Lord Shiva by his devotion and valor and gained Pashupatastra, that is, the weapon of Pashupati, the most destructive personal weapon of Shiva. Following him, other gods also gave weapons to Arjuna, assuring him success against the Kauravas. From there, Arjuna went to Indraloka, the kingdom of god Indra, his father. Besides archery, Arjuna also learned music and dance from Urvashi, the beautiful celestial nymph. Urvashi fell in love with Arjuna, but Arjuna refused her proposal. Thus disappointed, Urvashi cursed Arjuna that he would become a eunuch for a year. This curse later proved beneficial to Arjuna during his exile to stay for 1 year incognito. Last year in exile. The 12 years of exile of Pandavas was about to end. The Pandavas had to pass the last, that is, the 13th year incognito as decreed. They decided to spend it in Viratnagar, the capital city of Matsya kingdom. King Virata was the ruler of Matsya kingdom. For this purpose, the Pandavas disguised themselves lest they should be detected. Yudhishthira was well versed in scriptures and also in the rules and functionings of the royal court. So he decided to serve the king as his advisor. Bhima worked as the chief cook in the royal kitchen. Arjuna was destined to pass 1 year as a eunuch. So he taught dance and music to the princess Uttara in the guise of a eunuch. He assumed the name Brihannala. Draupadi was appointed as the chief maidservant to the queen. One day, Kichaka, the brother-in-law of King Virata, tried to molest Draupadi. Bhima secretly killed Kichaka in revenge. As Kichaka was a highly powerful man, his murder pointed directly to the presence of Bhima in Viratnagar. Therefore, Duryodhana attacked the kingdom of Virata. King Virata felt highly nervous in the absence of Kichaka. However, Pandavas fought in disguise on behalf of Virata's army and defeated the Kauravas. Meanwhile, the identity of Arjuna was exposed to the Kauravas. However, Bhisha confirmed that the 13th year is already over. King Virata was thrilled with the achievement. After all the tensions of the 13th years of exile, the Pandavas got freedom. The wedding of Abhimanyu, that is the son of Arjuna, and Uttara, that is the daughter of King Virata, was a welcome change for the Pandavas. Peace or war? Thus ended the exile of the Pandavas. Now, the most important matter before Yudhishthira was the restoration of the lost glory of the Pandavas. So, a meeting was held at Viratnagar to discuss the matter. Sri Krishna, King Drupada, King Virata were all present there. After a long discussion, Sanjaya, the royal priest of King Drupada, was entrusted with the job of a messenger of the Pandavas to King Dhritarashtra. However, the peace mission initiated by the Pandavas failed to bring the desired result. All advices of Bhisha Vidura, Gandhari and Sri Krishna fell into the deaf ears of Duryodhana. Obstinate Duryodhana decided that he would not give even a piece of land to the Pandavas, let alone half of the kingdom. Eventually, the war became inevitable. The Pandavas dispatched messengers to various other kingdoms to seek allies. So did Kauravas. When Arjuna reached Dwaraka to appeal to Sri Krishna for help, he saw to his surprise that Duryodhana also came to seek help from Krishna. To satisfy both, Krishna cleverly put a choice before them. They can either take him on their side or his million soldiers in his army to fight in their favor. Foolish and avaricious Duryodhana at once chose the million soldiers, while Arjuna was so pleased to have the gracious Lord on their side. The war begins. As the time for the battle approached, movement of the troops began, creating a tremendous din. Yudhishthira marched at the head of the advancing troops. In the rear were Virata and Drishtadrumna, that is, the brother of Draupadi or son of King Drupada. 40,000 chariots, cavalry, and infantry were present there. They camped on the level part of the field called Kurukshetra. At Hastinapur, the troops were accumulated in millions and moved to the front. Duryodhana arranged his 11 Akshayanis of troops, elephants, chariots, horses into 3 classes, superior, middle, and inferior. He placed Akshayanis of troops under Kripacharya, Drona, Salla, Dushasana, and Bhisha. Dhritarashtra received a first-hand description of the battlefield from Sanjaya, who had been granted an extraordinary vision by which he could watch the progress of the battle from his seat in the palace hall. Sanjaya reported the formation of troops facing each other on the eastern and western sides of the Kurukshetra field. The Sermon of Gita. The war was just about to begin. At that point, to everyone's surprise, Arjuna, the great warrior, was suddenly overwhelmed with the dilemma and grief. He was not able to come to terms that he had to fight his close relatives, brothers, uncles, and teachers who were present on the side of the enemy. Arjuna was greatly disturbed about the outcome of war. Destruction and death was sure to follow. He thought it was wiser to return to the forest rather than kill his near and dear ones. The brave warrior Arjuna, with Lord Krishna as his charioteer, was standing between the two armies, ready to start the battle. All of a sudden, Arjuna laid down his arms and went to the back of his chariot. Trembling with anxiety, he was unable to lift his mighty bow Gandiva and pleaded escape from the war. He turned to Krishna, his friend, teacher, and guide, and said, "O Krishna, I am unable to decide. I surrender myself at your holy feet. O Lord, guide me in this difficult situation." It was at such a dramatic situation that Sri Krishna delivered the sermon of Karma Yoga to Arjuna, which is known as the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna exhorted Arjuna to fight the battle without thinking of the consequences. Your duty is to fight. Do not think of consequences. Your fight is to get justice for yourself, and by doing so, you are merely performing your duty. The duty of a person as a karma yogi is to do his work without expecting any result. Krishna then answered many questions of Arjuna about the goal of human life, the aim of human birth, the nature of duty, the self, the soul, and about the 4 yogas, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. And finally Krishna said, whenever there is a decline in righteousness and unrighteousness prevails, I descend on the earth for the protection of the virtuous, for the destruction of the evildoers, and for establishing dharma on a firm footing. I will be born from age to age. I am death, I am destruction. These men who stand before you are already slain through karma. You will only be an instrument of their destruction. The grateful Arjuna now full of bliss with the realization of the true knowledge, said, "My ignorance has vanished, my doubts are gone, but before going into war, I want to see your original form." Arjuna then saw the divine form of Lord Krishna. It was beyond the imagination of Arjuna. Extremely relieved, Arjuna took up his bow again and swept through. War begins. On the first day, Bhishma led a fierce attack on the Pandava soldiers. Arjuna's son Abhimanyu, the youngest warrior in the field, was deputed to face Bhishma. Bhishma, while admiring the young man's pluck, retaliated mercilessly. The second day of war. On the second day, Arjuna and Drishtadumna encouraged the soldiers and organized them into a typical array called Vajravuha. The Kaurava army, led by Bhishma, attacked the Pandava army fiercely. Arjuna asked Krishna to lead his chariot towards Bhishma, who invited Arjuna with a volley of arrows. But Arjuna nullified all the arrows and penetrated through the Kaurava armies. Duryodhana, watching the course of the battle, became nervous. On the other side, Drona and Drishtadumna were engaged in a deadly battle. Bhima came to Drishtadumna's rescue and carried him off in his chariot. The third day of war. On the third day, Bhishma arranged his army in an eagle's format, and the Pandavas arranged the army in a semi-lunar shape. Bhima attacked Duryodhana with an arrow that made him unconscious, but he was quickly shifted to a safer place. Now ferocious Bhishma attacked the Pandavas with an unimaginably great force. The Pandava army was torn apart. Krishna advised Arjuna to attack Bhishma. Everybody watched the terrifying battle between the old and the young warriors apprehensively. Bhishma's many arrows hit Arjuna, and he was bleeding profusely. Being enraged, Krishna lifted the wheel of a broken chariot and ran towards Bhishma to put an end to his life. Krishna's vow not to take arms in the battle was thus broken. Seeing the Lord himself rushing towards him, Bhishma dropped his weapons. Krishna suddenly remembered his vow. He threw away the wheel and retreated to his chariot. The fourth day of war. On the fourth day, Bhishma again organized a fierce attack. Arjuna led a counter-attack. In order to distract the attention of Arjuna, Duryodhana sent his soldiers to attack Abhimanyu. But the young warrior proved too strong for them. On the other side, Duryodhana set loose many elephants to stop Bhima's advance. But Bhima destroyed all the elephants with his mace. The fifth day of war. On the fifth day, Bhima's son Ghatatkacha charged the Kaurava army like a cyclone. The sixth day of war. On the sixth day, Drishtadumna launched a fierce attack on the Kauravas. On the other side, Drona attacked the Pandava army in an immense rage. Duryodhana was badly injured by Bhima. The seventh day of war. On the seventh day, the Pandava army was in great disarray due to the unimaginable destruction inflicted by the Kaurava army under the leadership of Bhishma. Drona attacked King Virata and killed his son Shankha. Upset, Virata left the battlefield. On the other front, Shikhandi was fighting fiercely with Ashwatthama, the son of Dronacharya. The eighth day of war. On the eighth day, Bhishma arranged his soldiers in the form of a turtle. Drishtadumna arranged the Pandava soldiers in three different fronts led by Bhima, Satyaki, Yudhishthira respectively. Bhima was fighting furiously. Ghatatkacha roared like a lion and killed many Kaurava soldiers. At night, Duryodhana went to Bhishma's camp and said, "Grandpa, your valor and strength is unmatchable, but the Pandavas are still going strong. Please do something or else our defeat is certain." Bhishma replied, "Tomorrow I shall fight as you want. But remember, don't let Shikhandi come in front of me, as I will not fight with a eunuch. The ninth day of war. On the ninth day, Bhishma was in a fury. Krishna urged Arjuna to act. As Arjuna's chariot approached Bhishma, he subjected it to a hail of arrows. But they were warded off with great skill and speed. Arjuna broke Bhishma's bow, but he simply picked up another. It seemed to Krishna that they were just play acting. Highly dissatisfied with Arjuna's performance, Krishna stopped the chariot, jumped out of it. Raising his chakra, he said, "I shall kill this grand warrior myself. You will not do it, I know." 10th day of war. On the 10th day, Arjuna decided to put an end to Bhishma. He placed Shikhandi in front and advanced to attack Bhishma finally. Bhishma realized that his end was near, as he could not fight with a eunuch. So Bhishma stood still, while from behind Shikhandi, Arjuna's powerful arrows pierced Bhishma's armor. Bhishma fell headlong to the ground. By now, every inch of Bhishma's body was penetrated with arrows. So when he fell, a bed of arrows supported him above the ground. On noticing this, both sides stopped their fight. Everybody wanted to pay their homage to the great warrior. Bhishma announced that he would lie on this bed of arrows for many days to come. He had been blessed with a boon to live as long as he wished. 11th day of war. With Bhishma's fall, Dronacharya was appointed as the next general of the Kaurava army. He caused immense destruction to the Pandavas. Duryodhana suddenly developed a crazy notion that if Yudhishthira could be captured alive, then victory would be his. Yudhishthira's capture should be our first priority, he said to Drona. Luckily, the Pandavas came to know of Duryodhana's evil plan, and so all measures were taken to protect Yudhishthira. 12th day of war. On the 12th day, the Kauravas made a plan to divert Arjuna's attention so that they can easily capture Yudhishthira. They formed a suicide squad and threw challenge to Arjuna. Arjuna accepted the challenge. In the meantime, Dronacharya approached the place where Yudhishthira stood. As Yudhishthira was being guarded by Drishtadyumna, he could not capture him, because Dronacharya knew that Drishtadyumna was born to destroy him. 13th day of war. On the 13th day, the suicide squad once again challenged Arjuna, and he went away to deal with it. When Arjuna had left, Dronacharya regrouped his soldiers in a circular form, which is called Chakravyuha. None of the Pandava brothers except Arjuna knew how to break through this angle. Yudhishthira was highly tense. At that point, Abhimanyu came forward and said, "When I was in my mother's womb, father was telling her how to break through the Chakravyuha. But halfway through, mother fell asleep. And so I know how to enter the Guha, but I am unaware how to get out of it. Still, I would go and try to break this Guha." Yudhishthira was very happy, but warned Abhimanyu to be careful. Abhimanyu advanced with lightning speed, overcoming every obstacle. However, Jayadratha, that is, the husband of Dushala, makes use of Lord Shiva's boon and prevented all four Pandava brothers from entering the Guha. The Kaurava army violated all norms of war code and attacked Abhimanyu from all directions, and the great warrior fell to his death. Heartbroken Arjuna now blames Jayadratha to be the cause of Abhimanyu's death. He vows to kill him the very next day before the sunset, or he will set himself on fire. 14th day of war. On the 14th day, all the warriors on the side of the Kauravas surrounded Jayadratha's chariot and prevented Arjuna from approaching him. Krishna got worried It will take long time to deal with all these warriors, and the sun will set by that time. So he ordered the sun to hide behind the clouds for some time. The sky got darkened. The Kaurava army got highly elated as they knew about the vow Arjuna had taken. Just then the sun peeped out from the clouds, and a sharp arrow left the Gandiva of Arjuna to sever the head of Jayadratha. The death of Jayadratha changed the mood of the war. Both sides exceeded the time limit and fought in darkness with thousands of torches. Dronacharya was now seen to be more furious and charged upon the Pandava army like a bull. To defeat Drona, Krishna planned a new gimmick. There was an elephant named Ashwathama in the army of Pandavas. This was also the name of Drona's son. Sri Krishna asked Yudhishthira to spread the rumor that Ashwathama was dead. Terribly shocked, Drona approached Yudhishthira and asked, "O Yudhishthira, I know you never uttered a lie. Please tell me, is Ashwathama really dead?" With great effort, Yudhishthira said, "Yes, Ashwathama is dead," but added in a whisper, "I do not know whether it is a man or an elephant." Drona, in the din of the war, failed to hear the second half of the sentence, and thinking that his son had died, he gave up the fight. He threw off his weapons and sat down in his chariot, and Drishtadumna lost no time to sever Drona's head from his body. 15th day of war. On the 15th day, Karna was made the commander-in-chief of the Kaurava army. Arjuna found this a propitious hour for challenging him. Karna moved his chariot towards Arjuna. Arrow after arrow, they tried to find weakness in each other's skill, but both were found to be equal. At this moment, the wheel of Karna's chariot got jammed, and his chariot tilted to one side. The curse of Parshurama was to play its role. Karna learned archery from Parshurama in the guise of a Brahmin. So, Parshurama cursed Karna by saying that at the crucial moment during a war, Karna would face difficulties which would put his life in jeopardy. While trying to put out the wheel, Karna pleaded to Arjuna, "Wait till I set my chariot right. Please be fair." But Krishna reminded Arjuna of the scornful laughter of Karna at the pathetic condition of Draupadi in the royal court. Where had Karna's modesty and sense of justice gone then? What about Abhimannu's slaughter by the 7 warriors? At this, Arjuna raised his Gandiva and sent a divine arrow which cut off Karna's head. On the other side, Dushasana approached Bhima. Bhima was thrilled at this opportunity. He recollected the scene of Draupadi being dragged before the assembly, and he sprang upon Dushasana, pulling him down, tearing his hand. Then he sucked the blood gushing out of Dushasana's body in fulfillment of his vow, shocking the onlookers, including Duryodhana. 16th day of war. On the 16th day, Yudhishthira killed Shalla in a sword duel, and Shakuni was also killed by Sahadeva. Duryodhana now lost all hope. He remembered the advice of Bhishma, Drona, and Kripacharya, but it was too late now. Meanwhile, Gandhari got worried about Duryodhana, her only son left to deal with Pandavas. She remembered the vow of Bhima to break Duryodhana's left thigh. So she decided to help her son. She told Duryodhana to come before her and stand completely naked so that she may cast a look at his body which will make his body to suffer all the blows. However, before meeting Gandhari, Duryodhana covered his loin with banana leaves with the suggestion of Krishna. While Gandhari cast a look at Duryodhana, his whole body became as strong as steel. However, the part of the body he covered remained weak as usual. 17th day of war. On the 17th day, a fierce fight ensued between Bhima and Duryodhana. Krishna reminded Bhima of his vow. Bhima pounced on Duryodhana, brought his mace down, and smashed Duryodhana's thigh. Fatally wounded, Duryodhana was left alone to his death. On the last day, that is, the 18th day, both Ashwathama and Arjuna unleashed the Brahmastras to kill one another. However, with the intervention of sage Varsha, the world was saved from the destructive weapons. Thus, the war of Mahabharata came to an end. The Pandavas returned to Hastinapur. They spent 1 month period of mourning and performed various rites for the salvation of the departed souls. Yudhishthira was now the unquestioned king of Hastinapur. However, Yudhishthira's sorrow was so great that he decided to renounce the world. Years after, with the death of Lord Krishna, Yudhishthira enthroned Abhimanyu's son as the next king. Then the 5 brothers, accompanied by Draupadi, started for the Himalayas, renouncing their kingdom and all other luxuries.